So we'll be talking about this problem. Is question 3 of this book, page 97. Oh, page 97. So I like it perfect. So I found this problem particularly interesting. Use the fact that d sine x over dx equals to cosine x, and d cosine x over sine dx equals to negative cosine x to find the derivative of listed below. So these are the hints given, or the following given, which we can see that cosine x derivative equals to negative sine x, and sine x derivative equals to cosine x. These are small little givens to note down on the side. And so I found this particularly interesting, this problem. So these are the hints, right? And we first find the derivative of tan x, which we can see, which I like to think of tan as a slope, as x can be on the x and y plane of the unit circle. You can think of sine as y and cosine as x. I like to think of tan the same way as the slope, and it's more clear and easy to comprehend that way. So tan x is cosine sine x over cosine x. We will be using the quotient rule on this. What is the quotient rule? It's basically two random functions. You derive it, and it's a rule of f of x prime multiplied by g of x plus minus g of x prime multiplied by f of x over g of x squared. Which we will be using this rule to our advantage, and we will be getting cosine as given the problem, and cosine multiplied by cosine minus negative sine x multiplied by sine x. Because both sides. We actually don't need the brackets, but I like to put the brackets to comprehend this easier. Squared. Which we will get cos x squared minus negative sine x squared, which just becomes positive. And we will be using one of the trig identities. Which one? Well, in particular, the cos squared x plus sine squared x equals to 1. This one in particular, which fits our case, which will just equal to 1 over cosine x squared. Which you can further simplify this to sec x squared, which will be our final answer. And we will be moving on. This one's A, and we will be moving on to B, which is cot x. This one, same thing. This equals to, with the trig identities, this equals to 1 over tan, and 1 over tan basically flips these two, sine and cosine, flips it. becoming cosine x over sine x. Which we will be using the quotient rule yet again. Make it negative sine x multiplied by sine x, as the problem states, and minus cosine x multiplied by cosine x. This one's same thing. We will simplify this. So we have this. So this, it looks really similar to the trig identity we used for A, but just there's two negatives. So we could change this, balancing the equation, we could change it to multiply negative by the both sides, which will make it negative cosine x squared x minus sine x squared equals to negative 1. Looks familiar? Fits exactly right here, making it negative 1 over sine x squared, which equals to, further simplifying and using the trig identities, we could see that this is cosec x squared. This will be the final answer to B of this problem. And we will move on to C of this problem, which will be sec x, which, using the trig identities yet again, we will see that it equals to 1 over cosine x. Which, using the trig identity, we will be getting this. Okay. We'll be getting this. Why is it 0, you might ask? Well, deriving a constant just equals to 0 is the rule of, it's one of the fun facts of derivatives. So 0 minus negative sine x, which would just become plus plus, and there's going to be plus sine x, which we can make it more clear by sine x squared over cosine x. And you might be asking, this looks kind of weird. Well, we can actually make it a little bit more simpler by making a sine x multiplied by 1. We can make it multiplied by 1 over cosine x squared, which we can then make it to sine x over cosine x multiplied by 1 over cosine x. Which, this familiar? Yes, because it is just tan x multiplied by, also familiar, sec x. That'll be the final answer to this problem. Moving on to D. Moving on to the end of this problem, the last problem, cosec derivative. So this same thing, 1 over sine x, by using the trig identity yet again, and we will be doing the same thing, which will be equaling the same thing. over sine x squared will be negative cosine x sine x squared. Which we can furthermore, we can do the same thing. Sine x squared sine x which will become cosec multiplied by cot negative, which will be, can't put our answer like this, which will be cosec x times negative cot x, which negative cot by c x c x, x. And that will be our final answer for all these problems. And yeah, I answered this whole problem with everything.